For nearly 30 years, climbers making the final push to the top of the world passed the same man. He lay on his side in a small alcove of rock, just off the main route near the summit, his knees drawn up toward his chest, wearing a bright pair of green boots. Thousands of people saw him. Many had to step over his legs to get past. Some even stopped to rest beside him, sheltering from the wind behind the same rock. From a few feet away, he looked like a climber who had simply sat down to catch his breath. He wasn't. He had been dead for years, frozen exactly where he fell. And over time, this man became something almost too strange to say out loud. He became a landmark. Climbers used his body lying there in the snow as a waypoint, a marker to judge how close they were to the summit. They gave him a name, Green Boots. And the reason his body was never brought home, the reason more than 200 others just like him still lie scattered across this mountain, comes down to one brutal fact about the place where they all died. This is the death zone of Mount Everest. And as you'll see by the end, even Green Boots' story, after almost 30 years, may finally be reaching its close. Everest is the highest mountain on Earth, its summit standing nearly 8,850 meters above sea level on the border between Nepal and Tibet. And for over a century, reaching the top of it has been one of the ultimate dreams of human adventure. But that dream comes with a price that most people never fully understand, because the last part of the climb takes you into an environment where the human body cannot survive, not struggles to survive. Climbers have a name for the altitude above roughly 8,000 meters. They call it the death zone. Here is what that actually means. Up there, near the top of Everest, the air holds only about a third of the oxygen you are breathing right now, and your body, no matter how fit, no matter how well trained, is simply not built to function on so little. Every breath leaves you starved, your cells begin to fail, and crucially, you cannot acclimatize, you cannot get used to it. The death zone isn't a place you adapt to, it's a place you are slowly dying in, from the moment you enter it, and the clock is always running. So what does that do to a person? It's grim, and it's worth understanding, because it explains everything that follows. As the oxygen starvation sets in, your judgment is one of the first things to go. Climbers in the death zone make baffling, fatal decisions because their brains are quietly shutting down. They've been known to hallucinate, to talk to people who aren't there, to sit down in the snow and refuse to move, even to start removing their own clothing in lethal cold. Higher up, the body can begin to fail in even deadlier ways. Fluid can build in the lungs, drowning a person from the inside, or the brain itself can begin to swell inside the skull. Add in exhaustion so total that a single step can take several gasping breaths, temperatures far below freezing, and winds that can pluck a person off a ridge, and you have a place that kills in a dozen different ways at once. And people go into it anyway, every year, in their hundreds. Over the decades that people have been climbing Everest, more than 300 of them have died on its slopes, by recent counts, over 340. Some in sudden disasters, storms and avalanches that killed many at once. Many others simply used up. They ran out of oxygen or strength or luck high on the mountain and could go no further. Which brings us back to Green Boots and the question his frozen body raises. Why was he still up there? Why, when someone dies on Everest, is their body so often just left where it fell? The answer is as brutal as the mountain itself. Recovering a body from the death zone is one of the most dangerous things a human being can attempt. Think about it. A frozen body, weighed down with gear and locked in ice, can be a tremendous dead weight. And you have to move it down steep ice, across crevasses, along knife-edge ridges, all while you yourself are in the death zone, starved of oxygen, barely able to move your own body, let alone drag another. Helicopters generally can't fly high enough to reach these altitudes safely, and people have died trying to bring bodies down. So the terrible, unavoidable calculation is usually this: to retrieve the dead is to risk killing the living, and so most of them stay. Preserved by the deep, permanent cold, they remain on the mountain, sometimes for decades, exactly where they died. Some, like green boots, in plain sight of the route, passed by every climbing season. There is even a stretch of the mountain below the summit that has earned a darkly poetic nickname. Climbers call it Rainbow Valley, not for flowers or light, but for the bright, colourful climbing jackets and gear of the many bodies that lie there in the snow. A valley coloured by the dead. And it's on that same ground that the mountain poses its cruelest question. Because just a few feet from where Green Boots lay, in that very alcove, another climber named David Sharp sat down in 2006 and slowly froze. What made his death infamous is that he did not die alone. In the hours it took him to die, dozens of climbers reportedly passed him on their way to the summit, by some accounts around 40 of them, and continued on. The controversy that followed was bitter and has never fully settled. But the death zone complicates even that judgment. To stop and try to carry a collapsed stranger down could mean 2 deaths instead of 1. That is the impossible question the mountain forces on people. What do you owe a dying stranger when saving them might kill you in a place where your own body is already failing? Now, you would think a place this lethal would be visited only by a handful of the toughest, most experienced mountaineers on Earth. And once, that was true. But this is where the modern story of Everest takes a turn that makes it, in a way, even more disturbing. Everest has become crowded. Over the years, climbing the mountain turned into an industry. Commercial companies now guide paying clients toward the summit, and for a large enough sum of money, people with far less experience than the pioneers can buy their place on the mountain. And that has led to a phenomenon that once would have sounded impossible: traffic jams in the death zone. A few years ago, a photograph stunned the world. It showed a long, snaking line of climbers, hundreds of them, queued up along a narrow, exposed ridge near the very top of Everest, waiting their turn to reach the summit. Bright suits against the snow, packed nose to tail on a knife edge in the sky. And that queue is not just an inconvenience, it is deadly. Remember the golden rule of the death zone: the clock is always running. Every extra hour you spend up there waiting is another hour your body is dying and your oxygen is draining. Climbers have perished in those very queues, stuck standing in line, waiting for a chance at the summit while their limited oxygen ran out around them. People have died within sight of the top, not from a fall or a storm, but from the weight. And through it all, quietly bearing the greatest risk of anyone, are the Sherpas, the local mountain people whose skill and endurance make these expeditions possible at all. They fix the ropes, carry the loads, and cross the most dangerous ground on the mountain over and over, far more often than the clients they guide. When Everest takes lives, it very often takes theirs. They are the true backbone of the mountain, and they pay the highest price for our dream of standing on the top of the world. But here, at last, is where the story is beginning to change. Because the mountain's grip on its dead, that deep, permanent cold that held them frozen for decades, is starting to loosen. And the reason is the same force reshaping the whole planet. Everest is warming. As the climate heats, the ice on the upper slopes is thinning, and bodies and equipment that were entombed for years, some for generations, are slowly emerging from the melt. The mountain that kept its dead hidden is beginning quietly to give them back, and people have started going up to bring them home. In recent years, Nepali army teams have mounted enormous cleanup operations, spending weeks at a time in and around the death zone, hauling down tons of abandoned gear and rubbish, and, a handful at a time, at staggering cost and risk, recovering the dead. Each single body can cost more to retrieve than it costs to climb the mountain in the first place, and requires a specialist team willing to work where every one of them is dying too. And that brings us, finally, back to the man we started with. After almost 30 years as the most famous landmark on Everest, Green Boots is being brought down. His body, long a mystery, has recently been identified as one of 2 Indian soldiers who died in the disaster of 1996, and his own government has moved to recover him and carry him home at last, down off the Tibetan side of the mountain, out of the alcove where a generation of climbers stepped over his legs. The eternal marker, it turns out, was never meant to be eternal after all, so that is the real Mount Everest. Not just the triumphant summit photo, the flags and the grins in the thin, bright air, but the death zone beneath it. A place where the body is dying with every breath, where hundreds lie frozen where they fell, some serving as grim signposts for those who follow. Where a man in green boots became a landmark, and a valley was named for the colours of the dead, and where, even now, people queue in a line toward the sky, gambling their lives against a mountain that has never once cared how badly they wanted to reach the top. We climb it because it's there, the old saying goes. Everest's quiet, frozen dead are the reminder of what that sentence can truly cost. And the slow thaw now loosening the mountain's grip is a reminder that even here, at the very roof of the world, nothing stays frozen forever. If the most extreme edges of our planet grip you the way they grip me, the places that test the absolute limit of what a human body can endure, then subscribe and climb on with me. There are more of them still to come, and not all of them are made of ice.